you decided to climb the hill and you didn't make it. Here's the deal, you got two choices. You either restart or you recover. We did a really good recovery video, check that one out. But let's say you decide to restart. Check the ground around you, make sure the traction environment's good, and make sure that you're good enough with the grade. You can get up. So here's what you do when you stall. Leave it in gear and let the clutch out. If you have a motorcycle that doesn't have a clutch or doesn't have gears, step on the rear brake as fast as you can and set the parking brake. Now, with your foot on the rear brake, take your finger off the front brake. It's not going to do you any good. Put your whole hand, or at least most of your hand, over the throttle. Plant your left foot on the ground. As a matter of fact, maybe lean a little bit that way so that if you can, you've got a flat foot on the ground. If you don't got a flat foot on the ground, you might want to recover. Keep that rear brake compressed the whole time while you restart the motorcycle. Make sure that that rear brake is going to set you just fine. It's going to keep you where you're at. Pull your clutch in. So when you pull that clutch in, the chassis is going to release. And the reason the chassis is going to release is as soon as you made the rear brake the primary brake and put all the motorcycle's weight and your weight on the rear tire, it held it. Okay? As soon as you pulled the clutch in, it released it. So just be ready for a little bit of movement. Okay? It's not going to move backwards. It's not going to shift on the trail. The chassis is just going to release. Okay, now that the chassis is released, you've got the clutch in, you've got your foot on the rear brake, you've got your left foot on the ground, start the motorcycle. Once the motorcycle is running, you've got three things that you need to do simultaneously. You're going to have to release the clutch. As soon as I start to let the clutch out, I start to add a little bit of throttle. Use these two together and then slowly let off the rear brake until all you're using is the clutch and throttle together and get the bike in tension. And I just rock back and forth a couple times. What I want to do here is make sure my rear wheel is clear and make sure that my starting point, which is here, I've got traction and I'm ready for it. And I'm away from the rear brake. So it gives me one less thing to think about with the rear brake, and it gives me a really good start with my clutch and throttle. When you're ready, slowly let the clutch out. Don't dump it here. You need to slip the clutch, okay? At these speeds, you're not going to burn your clutch as long as you don't give it a whole ton of throttle. If the RPMs are down and you're slipping your clutch, you're not going to burn it. So keep slipping your clutch, keep adding throttle, trying to keep the rear wheel from spinning. As soon as I start to feel the rear wheel get traction, I stand up on the pegs as fast as I can. And don't let your clutch hand all the way out until you get to the top of the hill. When you're going to restart, if you make the decision to restart, besides the grade and the traction environment, there's a lot of other things you need to pay attention to. First of all, you want your right foot on the rear brake the whole time to keep you from rolling back down the hill. You can also use the gear, but at a certain point, you're going to have to pull that clutch in to restart the bike. So this is important. What else is important besides the rear brake is this stable? Can you stick that left foot on the ground and flat foot it, lean the bike into it, that still gives you a good enough line to get up that hill? Those are the first things you check. Then look around you, okay? If you've got flat ground all the way across the grade of that hill, so that if for some reason your balance gets knocked off and your right foot has to come off that peg and stick a foot down, you could still hold the bike up. If that's not the case, if you've got a rut here, or if the ground is further away, you may consider a recovery. The other thing is, what are the obstacles on the way up the hill? Do you have rocks in the way? Do you have other obstacles in the way that are going to make it harder for a smooth clutch and throttle release? Just make sure you're 100% committed to the restart.